I think you're right about the mental health issues. You know, society has a lot to answer for. We're seeing these knife attacks, not just in Sydney. This is one of the worst ones we've ever seen, but we've had similar instances in Brisbane where Violaine White was just tragically butchered as she was going back to a car with her granddaughter. This is becoming more and more common, and the mental health issue here, from reports he may have been even sleeping at rough in a car. Well, you know, anyone with these sorts of mental health conditions, the last place you want people with that sort of condition is sleeping rough in a car, because they're not getting their regular medication, they're not getting nourishment, they're not getting all those sorts of treatment. And, you know, when you have a look at Australia, 18% of people right now are taking medication for mental health. 18%. They're just straightforward figures straight off a government website. That is almost 5 million Australians. Now, 75% of those are antidepressants, but there is a big cohort of people on some medication there that are for some serious mental health conditions. And you go to a hospital, they'll tell you the emergency room is full of those mental health patients. They don't have enough mental health beds in this country. So, yeah, a big discussion needs to be had, and the tragic butchering of these 6 people will be forever remembered by not just people in Sydney, but right across this country after this weekend.
There's so much in that, and I want to unpack it in a second. Christy, I want to talk about something that is going to be, I think, a feeling of a lot of people, but something that a lot of people also need to understand, which is women and their sense of safety is very different than obviously blokes, and you know, we sort of, again, we'll talk amongst ourselves about going and confronting these people, all the rest of it, right? Well, obviously we know for whatever reason, and we'll eventually hopefully find a way to learn that reason, but the people who ended up getting killed or injured, of course, were women. And you know, a woman's personal safety is something I wanted to talk about tonight, because again, you walk into crowded spaces, it feels different than it does for blokes. When you see stories like this, it's processed differently. So, yeah, is that a fair thing to say about how a woman, no matter how well off, well educated, how much coin she's got in the bank, that you walk with a different eye at strangers than men do?
Well, violence of any type is non-socioeconomically discriminatory. I wanted to, just because I am here in Melbourne tonight, so this tragedy has touched so many up and down the eastern seaboard. There's a family of the offender in Queensland who are as devastated as the other victims' families. There is the football community here in Melbourne is in mourning today. Ashley Good was the daughter of prominent North Melbourne football identity former player and club director, Harriet's grandfather, Kerry Good, and of course the community of Sydney, New South Wales and the eastern suburbs. But female safety, you're right. We have come off the back of 2 women in Victoria being murdered in one town, in Ballarat, and now we see that women going about their Saturday afternoon shopping, gym, perhaps many of them also with their children, because that's what mums do on Saturday afternoons. That is what women do, take their children to run errands. And we have seen that safety be jeopardised. And women do walk with a sense of peripheral vision always. You don't expect to in a shopping centre, but you are always hearing the footsteps behind you or to the side of you, and your senses are far more heightened in public spaces than a man's ever will be.
James, about the access to mental health support services. I mean, again, it doesn't matter if we're talking about child psychologists like our mate Claire Rowe, who's constantly on air, talking about the great waiting lists that are for people. You just heard what Tim's had to say. Excellent point you made before about considering his access or obvious lack of being a homeless person. I assume there are systems where homeless people can go to a place to get their relevant medication, but I don't know if that's what actually happens. We would like to hope that it is, and if it doesn't happen, that's what needs to be put in place. Again, I'm not going to play my usual sort of team red, team blue role, but I think, you know, decisions made, and again, it's not in relation to this situation, but, you know, telehealth is something a lot of people have really latched onto as a way of reaching out. Again, none of this stuff's sexy, none of this stuff gets votes, none of this stuff's going to be on the front page of the paper, none of this stuff's going to get clicks going. But this is the basic, boring stuff that we've got to build a bridge to, don't we?
Well, all you have to do, Paul, is go and sit in the back of a courtroom any given day and watch defence lawyers tell the judge that their client has bashed their partner or bashed someone within the community within an inch of their life because they're on either no medication or the wrong medication, or they're self-medicating with other illicit substances. And these cases could be happening on a daily basis if we don't get mental health right. So that's certainly one facet to the argument. The other thing too is, and I think this really drives a message to those shopping centres out there who are quibbling over a few bucks from the Queensland police force over rent within the shopping centres, police beats should be mandatory, just like disabled toilets and mothers' rooms.
100%.
They serve a purpose for shopping centres. And I think some of these bigger organisations need to rethink their rates in which they charge the police force, because in this instance here, police had to come to that shopping centre, and if it wasn't for the common sense, bravery and the training that New South Wales police officer that she had, look, they are trained to go in and deal with these circumstances. As ugly as they are trained. So she also was carrying a weapon to defend herself and defend those around her. So well done to New South Wales Police. The training pays off as it's evident. And I think, yeah, a lot needs to be unpacked after this weekend. It won't surprise me if the Prime Minister calls for a Royal Commission over the next couple of weeks into mental health.
And certainly it would be something that you would imagine the extreme number of people are going to automatically support that. Again, we sit here and we will, you know, be the hardest markers possible, but I think the statements of the Prime Minister, the Premier, all the public officials have been absolutely appropriate.